Hello, parents and guardians, and welcome back to another Discipleship Debrief. So, this past Sunday, our youth group was going through the end of Mark chapter 12. We went through Mark chapter 12, verses 18 to 34. And actually, one of our elders here at the church, Devin Osco, was able to teach us. And so that was very enjoyable. It's always great to have a guest in here to teach. And so he taught through this passage in two chunks. The first being the question that the Sadducees ask of Jesus about the resurrection, really trying to trip him up and confuse him and see him make a fool of himself, right? It's not asked in good heart. And then the second portion is a question asked by a priest, and he asks Jesus in a good heart. He asks wisely and sincerely. And so the first question about the resurrection, it's really just this. He's talking about heaven. The Sadducees are trying to disprove the logic of the resurrection because they don't believe in the resurrection. So they're trying to show Jesus and show the people around that, see, this whole resurrection business makes no sense. There is no afterlife. There's no second life. And Jesus's answer shows us that heaven is not like earth. That's really what Devin focused on. Heaven is not like earth, right? We can't just go around thinking that we will perfectly understand every aspect of heaven, thinking that we can look forward to heaven being the exact same as earth is, thinking all these things about it, because heaven is far different, right? Our life to come is far different from our life we live now. And so he talked about that, and he talked about living with eternity in mind, right? Living with eternity in mind, living in the light of eternity. And he asked the question to the students, how does that change us? How does that change the way we live if we live in light of eternity? And one student gave a great answer and said that, well, we plan for the future. We don't plan for the future of this life only. We actually plan for the future of the life to come. We live in light of heaven, storing things up for heaven, living for the glory of God the way we will in heaven, right? And it's a great answer. So that's kind of what that section all kind of ended up being about, was heaven and how we live in light of heaven and how we live for heaven and how heaven is not exactly like earth, but we live for it anyway. We look forward to it. We vehemently look forward to it. And then his second section was the final couple verses of that passage. It's called the greatest commandment. So it's the next question, and this priest, he comes to Christ and he says, "What is the greatest commandment?" Right? What could summarize the whole law? And Christ quotes him out of Deuteronomy. He says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself." So he gives this summary of the law of loving God and loving others. And so Devin talked about that. What does it mean to love God? Well, to surrender to him, to give yourself to him, to give him time, to show him practically that you love him, right? But spend time in his word, spend time in prayer, spend time with the church, and to love others, right? And again, practically, what does that look like? Doing things for others. He used a long illustration of, right, maybe you have someone, your student has someone in their school who is really struggling for friends, always sits by themselves, and maybe your student decides that, hey, they don't want to sit with their friends that day. They want to go and they want to sit with that kid who's lonely. And so he got very practical with it. And his reflection at the end was, find one way this week practically that you are going to love others, and find one way this week practically that you are going to love God. And so for you guys, as parents and guardians of these students, you get to follow up on that. So first, I want you to remind them of the task. Remind them, hey, remember that Devin told you this week to look for one way to practically love other people and look for one way to practically love God, and then have that conversation with them. What are you going to do? Or if they're already doing it, what are you doing? How are you doing that? Right? What does that look like for you? And for you, as parents and guardians, you can share testimony of this as well. Share them things that have worked for you where you really needed to refocus, you know, a week and you really refocused in one specific way. Maybe it was a book of the Bible that really put your focus back on God and you felt like you were really showing God love by spending time in that book. Something you did for other people, right? What was something you did when you were a teenager that showed love to other people in school? Help your student to really wrap their minds around it and the practicality of it, how they can actually go and do it in their day-to-day life, how they don't need some higher understanding before they can actually go out and just live the Christian life. So that is all I have for you this week. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, please let me know. This next Sunday, there will still be youth group, but it's a Super Bowl party. So we're very much so looking forward to it. But it's going to be from 6 to 8 instead of 5 to 6:30. Please don't drop them off at 5. It'll be really awkward. That is all. See you next time. Thank you.